Ever since its reported discovery at the end of the 18th century, successive generations of treasure hunters have been obsessed with the money pit, best described as a giant hole in the ground at Oak Island, located a stone's throw southeast of Canada's Nova Scotian coastline. Accounts differ as to how the pit came into being. Some say it was first dug by teenagers, others that a settler broke ground after looking for the ideal place to start a farm. But either way, it's generally agreed that the discoverer noticed a disturbed patch of earth and a marker hinting that something important had been buried there. Over the following more than 2 centuries, successive individuals, as well as organised groups and companies, have tried to dig up the assumed treasure, all while the mythology of what that treasure might be has inflated out of all comprehension. Could it be the plundered riches of a famous pirate like Captain Kidd? One storyline claims that a dying soldier, formerly of Kidd's crew, gasped that £2 million worth of booty, a third of $1 billion in today's money, was buried there. Or maybe it's a sacred relic such as the Holy Grail or the Ark of the Covenant, perhaps hidden by the Knights Templar for safekeeping during their downfall in the 14th century. They were accomplished seafarers who were at times active in the region. According to other theories, it could have been Marie Antoinette's lost jewellery, British naval loot, Masonic secrets, or even proof that the Elizabethan polymath Francis Bacon, not William Shakespeare, wrote all those famous plays and poems. Over the years, such tantalising possibilities have piqued the interest of famous names including Franklin D. Roosevelt, William Astor, John Wayne, and King George VI, with many personally investing large sums into salvage projects. The Pit. Pivotal to the money pit legend is the notion that the hole was dug by people and is not a naturally occurring geological anomaly. Early accounts attributed to Daniel McGuinness, the man credited with finding the pit, describe the surface earth as loose, and, as he and his friends dug down, the discovery of pick marks on the pit walls and oak platforms laid every 3 metres. Encouraged by what they found, the men managed to poke and scrape to about 9 metres below ground level, but eventually abandoned their efforts, either owing to superstitious dread or because they couldn't physically go any further, depending on who you believe. Soon after, with rumours spreading, the dig is said to have been restarted by a group called the Onslow Company, who managed to excavate the pit to around 27 metres, discovering out-of-place material including coconut fibres as well as more log layers. The team hit a major setback when the shaft mysteriously flooded, although perhaps not that mysteriously given that Oak Island is small and the pit is located near the sea. They abandoned the dig when a second hole, dug adjacent to the first in an attempt to reclaim the treasure from below, also flooded. Investors formed a new company which excavated Oak Island between 1849 and 1851, discovering a flood tunnel system at Smith's Cove near the dig site. They tried, and failed, to plug the system, and dug 2 new holes, 33 metres and 36 metres respectively, with branch tunnels aimed at intersecting the treasure. This eventually caused the original tunnel to collapse into the new tunnels, causing whatever was buried there to fall further into the void, and that was that. 10 years later, in 1861, the newly created Oak Island Association re-excavated the money pit and created a series of new holes which all promptly filled with water. Attempts to pump the water failed, as did efforts to plug the flood system at Smith's Cove. Successive further attempts begun in 1866, 1897, 1909, 1928, 1959 and 1967 all failed to find much more than the littered debris from previous expeditions. The last of these groups, called the Triton Alliance, managed to mine all the way down to bedrock, a full 72 metres or 235 feet below the surface. Into this hole, the team lowered cameras, revealing grainy footage of what they claimed to be chests, human remains, and various tools. The shaft collapsed before any of this could be retrieved, while a later inspection of the film by experts was inconclusive, and the discovery remains unverified. The stone. Today, the only evidence that the original money pit was man-made is witness testimony from hundreds of years ago, and the booby-trap flood system, which could be the result of natural water-filled cavities caused when limestone rock dissolves. Almost all of the major discoveries that hint at human design, including the oak beams and coconut fibres, happened before excavations started being properly documented in the mid-19th century. These early endeavours are replete with rumour and hearsay, typified by the original claim of buried treasure by the dying pirate. The same can be said for the most mysterious object to have been retrieved from the money pit. A newspaper report circulated in the summer of 1862 described a stone tablet with mysterious markings, found buried 90 feet below the surface. The report was by someone called J.B. McCulley, who was not present when the stone was found, but claimed to be retelling testimony from someone attending one of the early 1800s excavations. Macaulay described the stone as a foot thick and 2 feet long, with characters etched into it. As with every bit of information related to the mystery, people turn this single crumb into an entire bakery. The main theory arc, cobbled from several different writers, is that the tablet was built into the chimney of an old house near the pit, where it could have been viewed, but the inscription was never decoded. It was later removed and taken to the nearby city of Halifax, where someone translated the symbols to mean 40 feet below are £2 million buried. In 1911, the stone reportedly turned up in Creighton's bookbindery in Halifax, but the chiselled inscription had disappeared. A decade later, it was spotted in a bookshop, before vanishing forever. The symbols were lost too, only to reappear in 1949, conveniently spelling out the big money promise in an easy-to-crack sequence. The cipher, so the story goes, had fallen into the hands of a historian via a colleague who claimed to have received it from a schoolteacher long since dead. The treasure. None of this obvious tripe has prevented successive groups spending millions of dollars turning Oak Island into Swiss cheese, to the extent that the location of the original money pit can no longer be pinpointed. Not to mention the great personal risk that is taken on by excavators and surface workers in their bid to find the lost treasure. So far, the pit has claimed 6 lives. In 1861, a man died when a pump engine boiler exploded. In 1897, another fell to his death, and, most tragically of all, during the 1961 project, 4 men were overcome by hydrogen sulfide fumes, including a father and his son. All of which begs the question, is it worth it? Which begs the answer, no. In the entire history of the money pit, no notable treasure has ever been found, despite the near-permanent presence of treasure hunters for the last 200 years. Most recently, the search has intensified with the 2014 launch of a TV show called The Curse of Oak Island. So far, this has run for 10 seasons and 187 episodes, yet the finds have been small, including a coin, a piece of material, and a hinge. And while other more impressive finds have included a sword, a brooch and a manuscript, some observers argue that all that can be verified may have been planted. The obvious problem for the show is that Oak Island has been turned upside down and inside out, yet treasure is most often found by accident on or near ground level, and that the Oak Island discoveries pale compared to real-life treasure finds. England's Staffordshire hoard, for example, consisted of more than 5 kilos of gold and 3,500 pieces of Anglo-Saxon jewellery worth £5 million, yet it was found in a ploughed field by a geezer with a metal detector. Or the Hoxton hoard, the largest Roman gold and silver discovery in Britain, found by 2 men looking in the mud for a lost hammer. Or the Curdale hoard, containing more than 8,600 pieces, including Viking coins, jewellery and silver ingots from the 10th century, found by workmen repairing the embankment of a river. Even religious relics aren't often that well hidden. The Turin shroud has been passed around various guardians for centuries, while the Dead Sea Scrolls were found in a cave and the Nag Hammadi library was unearthed in a desert graveyard. Why would the Oak Island treasure be so much harder to find than these? Why would riches be so well protected that the most sophisticated and well-financed excavation attempts can't get at it, let alone a knackered returning pirate with only a wooden leg and a parrot to dig with? The reality is that almost certainly nothing lies under Oak Island but mud and rock. People won't countenance that probability though, because there's money in mythology. Where there's a legend, there are tourists, and where there's a mystery, there's a 10-part TV franchise. In Oak Island's case, the real treasure is handed over to the area's hospitality businesses by paying customers, or to the History Channel by advertisers wanting access to millions of TV viewers. But buried riches? I can't see it. Can you? Let me know what you think in the comments, and please feel at liberty to like, subscribe and click yes for notifications if you want more fascinating documentaries. If it's hidden treasure you're after, check out my video on the lost Da Vinci masterpiece. Or if mysteries are your thing, take a look at my attempt to answer the question, where is everybody? Until next time, thank you for watching.